The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. This is a podcast designed by writers for writers on the journey to being published. Joined Mandra Biscornet.
It was so healthy and nutritious.
Deborah Monk.
Can we open each podcast with a dance number?
Shelley Devlin.
It was so full of inspiration and sparkles.
Every Tuesday morning live on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to catch the podcast anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. It's time to be inspired, feel empowered, and be well with the Writer's Block Podcast NH.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra.
I'm Debbie.
And I'm Shelley.
Thank you for joining us at the Writer's Block, where our mission is to inspire, empower, and to help people be well. We are really excited today because we've got a great guest joining us on the podcast. We talked about her last week, Dr. Bridget Cooper. As the best-selling author of 5 books, Dr. B sculpts the leader in us by making us better people first. Her ambitious mission is to change the world, one hopeful life at a time. Born onto the welfare system and raised by wolves, she's made her own success, one broken fingernail at a time. She knows heartache and hopelessness, and also the power of mind and spirit to carry you upward. She's conducted seminars, retreats, and keynotes for from the Girl Scouts to Vietnam vets, from universities to jails, from insurance companies to massage therapists. Her secret mission is to bring them together someday and see what fun transpires. Her TED Talk, The Secret to Making Life Hurt Less, provides the ultimate empowerment message about rolling with everything life hands you. Raised in Massachusetts, she has degrees from UMass, UConn, and George Washington, and we are so excited to welcome her to our show.
Thank you.
Hi, Bridget.
Oh gosh, I was like, boy, that sounds like an interesting person. Oh wait, that's me.
I know, that's a great bio.
We could have fun. Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, how are you?
So we want to just kind of get started with some of the work you do and a lot of your thoughts on the books and the speaking engagements and how that all comes together.
Great, awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. We were having such fun. We were hoping we should probably be recording before we got on the air because we were having all sorts of conversation about things beforehand. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and to talk to and for hopeful authors and people who want to, kind of open up a conversation and a career in public speaking and writing. So yeah, thanks.
Well, let's get down to that question that I asked you before.
All right, there you go.
I only asked before we started recording because I thought it might be inappropriate. But can you make a living as a writer and a speaker? Or do you have to have another job? Because the three of us at this point still have what we call our real jobs, and then we have our dream jobs, which we do here every Tuesday and every Thursday at the kitchen. But we're just wondering, is there some day that maybe we'll be able to, hand our resignation in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did not get started as a writer. I got started as a speaker and as a coach and as a consultant. So I started off, and my work still has all of those pieces, and each year the percentages of what I'm doing in any given kind of bucket shifts. But I do retreats for organizations. I do coaching for both executives and lay people. I do a lot of public speaking, whether it's seminars or keynotes, workshops, things like that. So, my work varies. The book part, the writer part, and this is what we were joking about off air, was I don't consider myself a writer. I mean, I've written books. I'm writing my 6th book as we speak, and I've had a number of others in development. But all this happened. I started writing books in early 2013. This is, 6 years and 5, almost 6 books. So, but I don't consider myself a writer. I put together the first book because for a number of reasons, one of which is I had all this information that I was giving to my coaching and consulting clients and in some of my public speeches. And I thought, this should all be written down somewhere. Like I should have been recording some of my brilliance along the way because, frankly, people seem really happy when I say stuff and I don't ever remember to write it down. I should probably start writing it down. And so I did. And once I wrote it down, and I should tell you this story, and this is for all the writers out there who struggle with pulling things together. I wrote all my brilliance down, and oh my gosh, there was a lot of brilliance. And then I sent it to my best friend, and she still says she didn't say this. She absolutely said this. I sent it to her, and she said, "This is a big steaming pile of bleep. This is the worst thing I've ever read in my life." And I thought, oh my God, I mean, tell me how you really feel. And so she said, "What were you trying to do with this?" And I explained it to her. I gave her like my 1 or 2 sentence, passion about why I was writing it and what I was trying to communicate. She said, "Well, if you'd written that, that would have been better." So I went back to the drawing board and I crafted a structure around it. And and so that was the first book. And then they just kind of kept piling on from there. There's a story about how kind of each one of them came to be. But people say, "Hey, you should write a book about this." I'm like, okay, like I take dares. Sure, I'll write a book about that.
Oh my God. Do we have her cell number? Because I'd like to text her every day for a little bit of inspiration. I will.
860, here, we'll give it to everybody. They can all text me. 860-986-9616. Blow up my phone.
It'll blow up.
That
all
is
right.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's true. And so, like, I have them right here. See, here are the books. And people say, like, "Oh, are they, like, skinny books?" No, like, this one's, like, 300 and some odd pages. Like, they're all, like, oh, yeah, you got Power Play there.
Mm-hmm.
And can I tell you the funny story about Power Play? I had written most of Power Play in a notebook. And I don't mean one of those electronic fancy-dancy things you get at, like, Best Buy notebooks. I'm talking old school notebook, lined paper with the pen.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a flight down to one of my clients in Florida, and I fell asleep on the flight because it was a super bumpy flight, and I was trying to like go into my happy place, which was very, very far away and on the ground. And I left it in the seat pocket. Yeah, left it in the seat pocket. I was on the phone with Delta, like every airport, whatever, for like a couple of months. I finally gave up and rewrote it because I had speaking engagements that were already announcing the book's launch, and I had no book. So yeah, Power Play was my nemesis for a minute. So yeah, but you absolutely can make a living at it. It's not easy, and I think it takes a passion. Like I don't know if my passion comes through on podcast.
Not at all.
But I am like, I want to reach through Skype into the audience and like shake people by the shoulders and help people wake up to their own power, their own passion, their opportunity. I just, suck the marrow out of life. And so if I can do that through books, awesome. If I can do that through consulting, great. If I can do that on stage, amazing. I'm just finding ways to do that. So if you've got that passion for it, you can absolutely make a living doing anything.
So I want to go deeper into the making a living, because from Girl Scouts to vets to everything in between and retreats, is there a sliding scale? Because I crib noted on my way in last week when we spoke about you, and I watched your video on your website on how to hire me. And I thought it was awesome, from your snooze to firecracker scale. So is there a sliding scale to hire you as well?
There is. So yeah, I mean, I do. I work with a lot of different entities, and I have worked with all those people. Like that's not a joke or a marketing angle.
No.
I was like looking at my list of people. I'm like, oh my God, this runs the gamut. Like, who are all these people? But yeah, absolutely. Like I have a passion for bringing a message out there. So yeah, I have some higher paying clients and I have some charity based organizations. And for me, it's about getting the message out. So I have actually worked with people and I've said, look, here's what I charge. So you understand that what I charge is not what I'm worth. That's not, those two things don't actually, I think, come to equate one another. But here's what I charge. But the work that we have talked about doing together is so important. Like I feel the opportunity here. You tell me what you can afford, and that is what I will charge you. Because I just believe that money is just one form of transaction, and it's not what everything needs to be. So sometimes money will arrive here and sometimes it'll arrive over there, and it
As long
works.
as it arrives.
Yeah, right. It does. It comes and it goes. Right. Trust me, I had a $50,000 divorce and I was only represented for 6 of the 12 months of that. I can tell you it comes and it goes. So, yeah.
I love when you said what I charge is not what I'm worth. That we tend to think of them as they must be the same thing. And you're so right. I've never thought of it that way, that it has nothing to do with it.
It has nothing to do with it. Absolutely. The market tells you what it will bear. It does not tell you what you are worth. And I have had so many people who have been, starting entrepreneurial ventures, and they've said to me, I can't get this to turn. I can't get that to flip, whatever. I must not be good enough. And I'm like, no, absolutely. Those two things are not equatable. That's not how that works. If you're bringing something to the world that needs to be brought to the world, how the world responds to you on any given day, in any given month, in any given year, does not narrate your worth. It doesn't narrate the worth of your message. I mean, I have had some pretty hard years. It was not a reflection of who I was or what I was bringing to the world. Did I need to shift some things, some practices? Did I need to maybe open up some different markets? Sure. But it had nothing to do with my worth as a human being or as a professional.
Wow, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
And we've talked about that when we've talked about being a writer and getting those 100-something rejection letters in the mail in one day.
Yeah, 11 in one day.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
11.
But yeah.
11, right. That's awesome. So you and I, we'd also talked before this about publishing. Do you want to, that sounds like a really tee off into publishing.
No, absolutely.
I don't like rejection letters. I have a tender heart. So I self-publish because for me, someone else judging the marketability of my message has no place in my journey. I know that people find value in my books. I had this woman who because again, started self-publishing in 2013, and I was on an airplane in maybe 2014, 2015. And, you get thrown on planes. You don't know who's sitting next to you. And sometimes you're going to get me, and I'm going to not shut up for most of the journey, or, not let you shut up. And I'm going to listen a lot. But anyway, so I was on the flight with this woman to Georgia, and she was telling me how she thought she was flying down to see her boss. She worked remotely, and she predicted that she was going to lose her job. And so we started kind of walking down that road, and what did that mean, and how did that shape how she was feeling and thinking. And so I handed her one of my books, which I do because I carry my books on planes and I hand them out like candy. And she said, I wished her well and didn't really think about her after that. I mean, I wished her well and hoped the best for her, but we had no way of communicating, or I had no way of communicating with her. And about a year later, I was keynoting a conference, and she walked up to me and she said, "You probably won't remember me, but you saved my life." Oh. And I said, well, wow, hang on, let me brush off my cape. But it was the book and the conversation. And I thought, if I had waited for some person in some ivory tower somewhere to tell me what my book needed to look like and what I needed to title it and how I needed to craft it, that woman and I never would have had that conversation, and she and I never would have exchanged that, experience, and she would not have had my book to hold on to during that journey that followed that plane flight. And I thought, why would I hand somebody else the control over that message and then tell me how I'm going to market my book? Random House, listen, if you want to talk, we can have a conversation, but I don't know if you've already kind of picked it up. I'm going to be in charge. Anyway, so it just didn't make sense to me. So yeah, I self-published.
Do people ask you when you say you wrote a book, do people ask you if you're self-published?
Yes.
When they ask you that, do you feel like there's a judgment in that question?
Yeah, but that's theirs. And that's their perception, because I think they're looking for, I'm going to give you a different story that leads back to that question. When I did my TED Talk, 3 minutes in, I lost my mind. I went completely and utterly blank. And I stood there for 24 seconds. Now, you work in media. You can imagine what a 24-second pause looks and feels like.
We call that a pregnant pause
right?
in the industry.
Yeah, it's like death without, being able to lay down, right? And 24 seconds, and I finally looked at the audience. Now, this was being live streamed around the world. I had friends all around the world watching this thing. And after 24 seconds, I looked at the audience and I said, give me a minute. And I walked off that stage, got my notes, came back on, nailed that. And yeah, it was great. I had people who came up to me afterward and were like, girl, you rocked that. I had an 11-year-old boy text me and say, that was savage. 11-year-old boy tells you you're savage, you have just made it, right? But there were people who walked up to me and hugged me and said, are you okay? Those people were bringing to me their stuff, which was that they would have been humiliated. They would have felt less than. They would have felt embarrassed by that journey. That was their message. So when people come up to me or you and ask, oh, you were self-published, and they have some sort of judgment in that question or in that statement, that's about them seeking or needing approval, or a misunderstanding about what the world of publishing now looks like. It has transformed in the last 5 to 10 years. And so I take that as information. Oh, so you either need more information or you need a hug, and I'll give you both.
It is. It's like looking at that as validation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you don't need that.
No, honest to God, like how many amazing, there are stories, abundant stories about people who have been award-winning authors who are rejected over and over again. I'm not taking that as my, as my litmus test for whether or not I have value. Just like how many valedictorians don't get admitted to the college of their choice. That doesn't mean that they're not worthy. That just means they didn't get picked. So I don't like those odds. So I don't play them.
And how have you found the self-publishing process to be? Yeah.
It's work. I think, you have to, I've seen people who have self-published, put out things that are abundant with, typographical, offset margins, weird formatting, awkward packaging. Hey, they're getting a book out, so great. I've also seen really high-end, high-quality, projects. So I think the process, because you manage it, you have to manage yourself in a way that reflects your values. And so I have my books edited. I have my books read by lay people to kind of pick up on things. I have editors come back to me and be like, I can't edit this. and the reason they say that is because I write how I speak. So I have many sentences that have one, maybe two words in them. They're not like, they're not structurally sound, but they get the message across. You can hear me, which may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing. You can hear me in your head when you are reading my book. So I write like that. So if that resonates with my readers, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so that editing process can be somewhat awkward. But I think when you're self-publishing, you have to rely on experts and a support crew to be able to make sure that what you have produced is something that you're going to be proud of. And I've got a book design, cover designer. I've got people who help me with the formatting, and I've shared that formatting with other authors to help them along if they're going to self-publish. And so I've loved it.
Now, for the speaking engagements, do you go out and find those yourself? Is that part of your marketing plan, or? Yeah.
So I put out my phone number earlier. I'm probably going to have like a dozen coaches reaching out to me after I make this next statement. I am terrible at marketing because I don't reach out to me. I have been coached. I'm coachable, but I don't need help in that. I don't go out and like promote myself in the way that a lot of people might think that I could and should. I rely on a lot of word of mouth. You asked me to be on this podcast because you saw me speak. That's how it happens. I go out and I show you who I am and what I stand for and what I'm about. And if that resonates with you, you call me for something else, and we have conversations, that follow. So that's how my business has been built. I don't go out and seek them. They tend to seek me and build upon one another. One speaking engagement leads to 3 more, leads to a few clients, whether they be corporate or organizational or private. And that's just how my business gets built. Part of that's a spiritual thing for me, that I believe that the people who need to find me and need to see me. And so if I push myself in front of someone and try to market myself to a place that doesn't want me, that doesn't really end up being synergistic. It ends up being, I got their money and they got my time, but we didn't really, we didn't do as good a work as I would like. So that's kind of how I think about it.
I feel like she's all 3 of us together. In a way, right?
Yeah. I think Shelley's in heaven over here.
I know.
I am more inspired in the last 18 minutes.
20
minutes than I was 8 hours in a class yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
So when Shelley texts you later and asks you to be her best friend, just so you know that spot's taken, you can be second or third.
Oh my God. Listen, there is enough love for all of you.
That is true.
Back and forth. I swear.
Well, you need to tell us, what is your newest book?
My newest book is called Pain Rebel.
Oh, well, what's the book that you were telling us about before the show started?
Oh, well, I have so many. So
we can remind
Stuck
you. Yes.
That's Stuck You.
Is that out
and
yet?
It's university.
Oh, yeah, that's been
There's
out.
a period. Okay.
Oh.
But yeah, it's edgy, and so am I. So Stuck You is a roadmap for change. And Feed the Need was my first book. That was the book that my best friend told me was bad. And then Feed the Need Teen Edition is basically a rewrite of the first one, but for teens, because this young lady came up to me when I was doing a workshop on the curriculum from Feed the Need and told me that I changed her life because she now had the tools to go in and face her bully at school. So, and asked me if I had it in teen edition. And I said, you're brilliant. I went home and rewrote it, and she wrote the foreword, and I spoke at her school and to her bully, which was pretty freaking amazing. Then you have Power Play, which talks about the taming the circus at work, which is my, famous whip picture, right? That, gets me not invited to, some conservative companies who don't like seeing women with whips. Too bad for you. And then I have Little Landslides, which is my story about rising up through trauma, which was the topic of my, the basis of my TED Talk, The Secret to Making Life Hurt Less. And my fifth book, Pain Rebel, talks about reorienting our relationship to pain so that we don't carry it and collect it and hand it out to other people. I see our world as being in a lot of pain that it doesn't need to be in, and pain begets more pain. So I want people to heal themselves and to not injure others. So Pain Rebel is my, my mission to further that.
And is that available already, or that's coming soon?
Not yet, because I kind of took a step away from it when I was doing the TED Talk preparation, and I'm getting back into it. I've got about 100 or so pages written, and so I've got another 150 probably to go before it's done. But I could turn it out in a few weeks if I could get my butt in front of a computer and writing with any productivity. So,
what are you looking at me for?
Oh, because of how?
Are you looking at me? I'm looking at you.
You could get that book done, and I could help you because it's one of the things that I do. I wrote my dissertation, which is a book. It's 374 pages of boring writing, and I wrote it. I wrote 2 of the chapters, like 96 pages, in like 3 days, and it's really about structure and about passion. And about somebody, having their boot up your nether regions. So,
Bridget, I think...
Hey, I have all those keys, so call me, text me.
And I think a lot of our listeners are going to want to connect with you, especially after today's podcast. Where do you want to direct them?
So you can friend me on Facebook.
Yep.
You can follow me or follow me on Facebook too. On LinkedIn, you look up Bridget Cooper or Dr. Bridget Cooper in either one of those places. You can go to my website for all those links as well, which is drbridgetcooper.com. You can go to my YouTube channel and have fun watching some of my car conversations with Dr. B, where I just think of something as I pull into a parking lot and start talking to my camera. Which you can imagine what that might look like. So connect with me. I would love to hear from you, or you can text me. I mean, I put my phone number right out there.
You put it right out there.
So go ahead and do that, or email me. Again, that link's through my website at drbridgetcooper.com, and I would love to hear from you. I'm here to help. So please let me help you. Help me help you.
Awesome. Well, we are going to have all of that, all of the different ways to connect with you on our Facebook page as well, because this has been a great podcast.
It's been wonderful.
Yes, it's a
Thank you.
mini jolt of
have me
inspiration.
Back anytime you want to talk about anything. I don't even know if we got to all the questions that we talked about before, so I'm happy to come up, and hopefully next time I can be in person in the studio.
Oh, that would be so fun. That would be so much fun.
Let's make a plan to do that. I just got a convertible. She's just dying to get back up to New Hampshire. So
nice.
Let's make that happen.
And we'll be filming the pre-show interview portion as well, because that was just as fascinating.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
it's
natural because we're just having a conversation. So, please have that happen.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. Hang on a little bit. I'm going to do our closing. And
okay.
But we really appreciate it. And this has been wonderful.
Thank you. Oh, my God. You guys were a delight.
So we want to thank everyone for listening. Please check out the Writer's Block NH on Facebook and the Writer's Block podcast on Podbean or your favorite podcast catcher. May you be inspired, feel empowered, and be well. Attention cigar smokers or even friends of a cigar smoker. If you're looking to relax with a nice premium cigar or looking for a great gift for a cigar smoker, this is the gift that keeps on giving. Our friends at twoguyscigars.com have created the Cigar of the Month Club. For just $19.99 per month, you or a friend will receive 4 different premium handmade cigars every month, and shipping and handling is included.
Contact twoguyscigars.com. That's the number 2, guyscigars.com, and go to the Cigar of the Month Club. You can stop anytime because there's no contract, but you won't. This is a tremendous deal for our listeners. Go to twoguyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com and click the Cigar of the Month Club.
At the same time, if you want to learn more about the cigars you receive each month, you can smoke along with them on our own podcast called The Cigar Authority. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a nice premium cigar from our friends at twoguyscigars.com.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.